And now, here's your host of Shaping Success, Wes Tankersley.
Where are we getting that feedback, though? Do you hear that feedback?
No, it's clear on my end.
There it went. All right. What's up, everyone? It's me and Robert back. We are back in action. It's been a little while. Last week I did a solo episode, just kind of tell you what's going on with me. Robert was visiting with his son, and so, a little time off, getting moved, getting set up, getting adjusted to the new spot. And we've decided that, we're two nobodies who know nothing, and we are both on the air right now. So what are you going to do about that?
Yep. We're going to brand it.
I think that's what we're going to do. Let's just name it that. Everyone will come to it.
Yeah, because they want to figure out who the two nobodies are.
Yeah, who know nothing. We don't know anything.
Who know nothing.
We just run our mouths. That's all we do.
That's it.
Man, there has been a lot of stuff that's happened in the last month that we haven't even been able to talk about. It's been amazing. It's been crazy. I don't want to get too political, but talking about like Charlie Kirk is one of those things that was really heavy on my mind, and it was tough to kind of fathom how that all went down. There was a lot of things that, and then, the firing of Jimmy Kimmel for saying something about it, and a lot of things. I kind of wanted to get your take on like this free speech thing, because to me, Charlie Kirk, very tragic thing, very sad thing. Too many people going, he got what he deserved. If you want nice things to happen, don't say mean things, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then, all about free speech, all he's talking about, and he never really talked that way. I don't think I ever really heard him use hate speech or anything like that. He always shared his thoughts on things. And then we get Jimmy Kimmel getting fired from Disney for, to me, kind of seems like a byproduct of something else. Like his ratings were shit. They were terrible. And I feel like they just found a reason to get rid of him. However, I feel like he got fired for the same thing that Charlie Kirk got murdered for, free speech. This is the thing. And I just kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on that.
I guess when I decided to put on a uniform and pick up a weapon and stand at post, my oath was to support and defend the Constitution. And that meant that if somebody was burning the flag, which I absolutely detest, that I would protect their right to burn the flag if that was what the Constitution and our Supreme Court said was okay. And my theory on it is, as long as that is how we define free speech, I am going to do what I can to protect free speech. And that means that I think that firing Jimmy Kimmel for it is wrong too. You either believe in it, and the interesting part is we don't have to agree with everybody. This is back to we can disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
And this is where I just don't understand why debate has to be shut down. But in one breath I do, because those in power, whoever they may be, right, left, doesn't really matter, don't want you to have a debate to disagree without being disagreeable. They want the disagreeable part in there so that they can, and I always tell people, they raise money on this.
Right.
You don't realize that they raise money on friction. They don't raise money because everybody's, you can vote for me or them. It really doesn't matter.
Right.
To them, they want to make it as polarized as they possibly can. So these issues become as polarized as they possibly can. It's beyond tragic to see people martyred for their faith or defending free speech, however you want to frame it. Come on, that's not the kind of country we want to live in. It's the kind of country that silences Jimmy Kimmel or, assassinates, kills, murders, whatever you want to call it, somebody who's speaking out for their faith or that's not the kind of country we want to live in.
Yeah, and I think, I was listening, after this all happened, I was listening to Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew talk about it a lot, and where we are as a society and where everyone is, like in the NFL end zones, they say end hate or all these things, and they start talking about or end racism or end this or end that. And when they continue to push that this is what it is, and they're telling everyone that this is hate, this is something that is bad, this is this is that, like everyone hates everyone, don't talk like that, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. What's going to happen? Where are we going to go from there? People are going to start to think that the only way to end hate is to end someone's life. And the sad thing about all of this is to say the things that they do and then not to actually listen to some of the things that Charlie Kirk said. But then when someone says that he's a racist, he's a fascist, he's this, he's that, and then you say, okay, can you tell me when I did that? Can you show me when I did that? Can you prove that this happened? They're like, no, he said it. That's it. Like, there's no like receipt for the action of what's going on. And that's where a lot of things happen, because they say the same thing about Trump. They say the same thing about Biden. They say the same thing about Obama. Like, they say all these things, but in the end, they never really have a copy of what they actually did. You know, like, they don't know where that came from, how they said that, where it was. And that really is what bugs me, is that there's no proof of what is going on.
Right. And I think that I'm in the position of, I really, to be honest with you, don't know Charlie Kirk, haven't watched him. If I've seen him say 10 words, I'll be surprised. I just haven't done it. Now, my son did call me, my youngest, and he did call me the day of and was very hurt by it. And I said, I understand, because he did listen to him speak at a university, and he admired him. And I said, that's okay. Sit in your grief. There's nothing wrong with that. I totally understand that. But I said, as soon as you can feel comfortable in it, back up and start to look at the big picture and look at what people do with this situation, not look at the loss. The loss is tragic beyond tragic, but watch what people do with it. This is very instructive for you as a young man trying to make your way in the world, is to begin to understand how they use it. And that's because, again, you know, I'm a person, as I said to him, I don't know him.
Right.
So I am not the person you want to ask whether or not he said anything hateful or what. I'm not the person. So if you say to me he was a really, really nice guy, I'll go, cool. If you say he was really, I don't know. And I'm willing to do that with anything that I don't know anything about. I'm willing to say I don't know. And I'm not willing to pick up the meme of someone else, right? I don't care who you are. If you can give me your take on things. And here's the thing, I'm going to go investigate. If I want to have an opinion, I'm going to go do it. I'm going to go watch hours of, if I wanted to, I really don't, but
Right.
I watch hours of his speeches to say, is this really true? And I think that's what you're getting at is, can we get our own receipts for this stuff?
Right.
I think it's very fair if you hear somebody say something very, very hateful. You hear it with your own ears, okay? And you see the reaction, you see the tone, you see the context, and you go, ooh, that's hateful. There you go. Now you got a receipt.
Yep.
I'm comfortable with that.
And that's the thing, though, like that's the problem for me, is like, we sit here and we look at like what these people say in the day of social media, and every single thing that Charlie Kirk did was recorded. So in all those recordings, if you can go through and you can pull this out and you can show someone, I mean, this is the thing about debate, right? Because people are going to sit there and say all these things, but if you can go through that stuff and you can find where he said what he said and say, look at this, instead of going to the media and going, oh, well, you know, I mean, I'm going to age myself. Matt Lauer said this or whatever. Obviously, we know he's like in a big trouble. Matt Lauer said this because he said this. This is truth. This is real. But if he said it and then had a clip to back it up, it would be one thing. But he didn't. I mean, there has got to be. You look at like Dave Chappelle getting canceled for something that he said, 20 years ago, or who is it? Kevin Hart. They're canceling these people for saying things that they said 20 years ago. They may not feel the same way, but they cancel them. They go and they find these tweets. They go and find these videos. They go and find these things that this person has said, and then they cancel them. Where's the proof? That's all I want to know. Is like, you can't just take someone else's word for it. If you're going to feel a certain way about someone, you should go out and do the research and figure that out on your own.
So, like, it's very easy for me to look at a situation and say that it's tragic. And again, in Jimmy Kimmel's firing, to be honest with you, I didn't listen to Jimmy Kimmel's comment.
Yeah.
Okay, I just heard that he said something on air that caused him to be canceled, and I went, ooh, that's a bad precedent.
Hmm.
That was the first thought in my head. I didn't even go to the point of, well, did he say something really? Didn't even do that. I just went, ooh,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially, come on, comedians, really? We as a culture have asked our comedians to really dance on the edges, right?
Yep.
Right, to kind of desensitize us in some respects. So, I mean, I'm real sensitive to taking a comedian and saying there's no turf that they can walk on. Now, I mean, I might consider something in bad taste, and here's the cool part: I have a switch called a dial, right, on my television set where I can flip it off.
Right.
Okay, I'm a big boy. If I
Yep.
don't like you, I can shut you off. I don't need to get you canceled so that, I mean, my gosh, I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel, so I don't have a stake in getting him canceled. I do have a stake in free speech.
What's funny about that scenario with Jimmy Kimmel that just kind of threw me off was the fact that I feel like there was talk of him getting canceled for a long time. Not
Right.
because of this, but because of the ratings. And that's what everyone brings up, but no one actually sees. His ratings are horrible. In late night TV, ratings are horrible. People don't understand that. You may watch Jimmy Kimmel, you may watch Jimmy Fallon, you may watch, I don't know who's the other guy. There's 3 guys or whatever. You may be watching those guys, but the reason why I feel like Jimmy got canceled wasn't because he said what he said, but was because it was a good opportunity to cancel him without having to take any ownership in the situation, because they could just basically say, well, he literally had like 300,000 or 600. It was some weird, really low number. Like, there's how many millions of people in this country, and there was like 600,000 people watching it. So it is not a moneymaker. It is not bringing in revenue for them. So they found a way to get rid of it.
And that's pretty low or cold of them to use that excuse, right? I mean, stand up and have a little, intestinal fortitude. But again, from my perspective, obviously, I had 2 reactions to the thing: the horrible reaction to Charlie Kirk's passing, of course, and then the horrible reaction to the knee jerk of Jimmy Kimmel. I have negative reactions to both, which was like, oh, geez, that's horrible, and what the hell are you people doing, canceling somebody over something? I mean, I just don't understand a culture where we're that extreme.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't get it. And so, yeah, that's a problem for me, because I do not identify with the people that would consider violence. I don't need, here's the thing. I served in the Cold War against the Soviet Union, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big evil, the evil empire, as Ronald Reagan called it. We still didn't use violence to silence them. Think about that. We didn't go to war with them to shut them up. What we did was simply prove that our system was better.
Yeah.
That's it. If your idea is better, prove it.
Yep.
You don't need to silence anybody. It's not necessary.
Yeah, and that's what's pretty crazy about it. It's just that's where we are as a society, though. Is it's sad, because like, if you don't like something that someone does, then just get rid of them. Like, I mean, why do we feel this way? Why do we think that that's okay? Instead of talking it out. And that's what I think that Charlie did, was the fact that he was able to have a conversation with someone. He would pull up the people who had a very differing opinion of his and talk to them about it and try to, hash that out with them. He didn't change. It's not like he was trying to change their thought process, but he was trying to bring to attention what else there is going on,
It was funny. I did see one little clip of Charlie Kirk with Bill Mayer, a politically incorrect, on his podcast. And Bill is drinking and smoking pot, and you can tell he's just a little buzzed, right?
Yep.
And he's like, talking to Charlie Kirk, are you cool with me having the right to do what I do? And he was like, yeah. And that's the only time, because again, from Bill Mayer's perspective is, you don't drink, you don't smoke pot, you don't do all these things. geez, are you going to have a problem with me doing it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard, and that was one of the ones that one of my favorite ones that makes its rounds with Charlie on like TikTok and that things, or is when he was talking to someone who was openly gay, and she said, what do you think about this? And he goes, my job as a human being is to love you no matter what, and it says in the Bible this, but it doesn't mean that you have to do what it says in there. That's your choice. You can do whatever you want. But I love you for who you are, not for what you do. And you can do whatever you want. And that's the thing, like the judgment there that drives me crazy is people make these judgments on people who for choices that they make, and that's their choice. Their choice to drink, their choice to who they, have a relationship with, their choice of whatever. Like just because I think it's wrong doesn't mean they can't do it. I'm not the person in charge of that. I don't like the word religious, but I am a churchgoer. I believe in the Bible. I believe in God. I believe in those things. But the reality is I think a lot of these Christians that get a bad name are the ones who pass judgment on everyone. Now, you can talk to someone about this and say, hey, this isn't right. It says it right here, but it's your choice, right? And it's not my job to tell you what to do. I am not the judge of you. There is only one judge, and we all get lost in that it's not our job to do that. We think we have this power to say, hey, your hair is red, you can't do that. Hey, you have tattoos, you can't do that. Hey, like there's all these judgments. Like there's only one person that I have to answer to, and I'll answer to him when it's my turn, for what I've done.
I had a minister friend I won't mention his name because he's a huge minister in a mega church, and he had the issue of going to a gay wedding. Okay, that happened to be a member of the church, and they asked him to officiate, and he said, I cannot officiate because that's differing than my views, but he said, I will be there in support of you. I will come to the wedding. And he took immense hate for that in on the very, very far fringe of the right coalition, who basically said, you're going to it, you're sanctioning. He says, no, I'm loving the person that I know. Okay. I'm separating the person that I know from the action that I disagree with. And that's all he's basically saying. And he took immense heat. But actually, when you look at it, he's saying the same thing. I have friends that do stuff all the time. And I always tell my friends this. Oh, well, what do you think about what I'm doing? I said, it doesn't matter what I think about what you're doing.
Right.
And I said, why? I said, because you're my friend. I support you. I said, now, do you want my opinion on it? I think it's a bad move, but here's the point. I'm going to defend you. And then when it turns out to be a good move, I'm going to say, that's great. And when it turns out to be a bad move, I'm going to commiserate with you. I'm not going to say, I told you so. Why? That's not being a good friend.
Right.
Being a good friend for me is giving you an answer. If you ask me, Wes, if you ask me to say something about this, I'll give it to you. But then my job as your friend is to just support you.
Yep.
Right, wrong, or indifferent, just to continue to stay in their support. And people lose track of that because friendships split over issues like that. Where they
it's kind of like, it's almost like
Mm-hmm.
parenting, right? Like I feel like that's kind of, as we're talking about that, I think about like my dad. It's like, he's not going to not be my dad, if I go out and do something that he doesn't like, he's still going to be my dad. He's still going to love me unconditionally for what it is, but he's going to be disappointed, and he's going to, try to tell me what he thought should be different,
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
But you can't change that. You can't. You got to be. We got to get into the fact of, like you say, being so judgmental that we can't understand that. One of the reasons why I don't offer advice, for example, in my children's love lives, right? I don't get involved. Why? There's no win in that. If I come in and say that this person looks like an amazing person, blah, 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 and then they get a divorce, what do I look like?
Yep.
If I come in and say this person's not right for you, right, and they're married for 30 years, what does that do for me?
Right.
It's not, I don't have a stake in that. I have a stake in my kids' happiness.
I think it's funny because as you say that, I think about my marriage to my wife of 25 years and how my parents told me, you're too young to get married, this and that, blah, 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 blah. And they got married when they were 18. And they're telling me I'm too young to get married at 19. And I've been married for 25 years, and I have, it's just funny to hear them say that and knowing what I know now,
Mhm. And I understand when they say that you're awfully young. It's different to say to listen, this is a really big decision. You're really young. Are you sure you've thought this through?
Right.
And you say, yeah, I've thought it through. Okay, I got your back. What can we do to help make your marriage successful? What can we
Right.
do? That's the position I'm in, because once you've decided I'm your parent, I'm just going to stand behind you.
Yeah. Whatever you do, I support you. I may not agree with it, but I am here to support you.
It's not my life, it's yours.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. That's the funny thing. It's like I got in this argument with my dad probably, I don't know, 2-3 years ago about buying a four-wheeler. And it wasn't an argument. It was like I called him and I asked him for his advice. And that's the thing. I am the type of person that, like, it's kind of like Consumer Reports, but you go to people, right? If you guys don't know what Consumer Reports are, I can't remember what class I was in high school when I learned about them, but like you can go in, it used to be a magazine, right? You could read through it and it'd tell you about all the, like, this car is best rated car or whatever. And so you'd go in there and you'd look through all the different options, and then you'd make your choice based on what the crash rating and this and that and blah, 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 blah. Well, for me, it's like I'm going to go buy a four-wheeler and I'm starting to think about, like, how am I going to use it? What am I going to do with it? And then my dad has a Honda four-wheeler and I'm like, okay, cool. Why did you buy a Honda? Because I'm looking at a Polaris. I'm looking at Polaris and a Honda. Why did you buy Honda over Polaris? And then he starts telling me all these differences and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And so I go in and I sit down with a guy who sells them all day, every day, a friend of mine that I went to high school with, and I'm seeking out his advice and talking about it. And he's like, if I were you, based on what you've told me, I would probably get the Polaris. It's a lot easier to use. It's a little bit more intuitive. And like, if you're gone, we lived out on 3 acres. We had this really long driveway, and my goal was to have it to, like, tow it around and do a bunch of stuff with it, like do yard work and all that. And then in the winter when it snows, we need some way to clear the driveway, throw the snowplow on it, and go out there and do it. Well, if my wife's home alone and I'm out of town and she needs to get down the driveway, she needs to be able to get on that thing and use it and clear out the driveway and do it. Really simple. Well, a Polaris has a shifter on it that you just push into drive, push into reverse, go back and forth. And he was talking about how he could clear the driveway at the ATV shop in about 5 minutes with the Polaris. But if you don't know what you're doing and you're not proficient with the Honda one, you have to shift the gears on it like the old school one where you're clicking and pushing, and then you have to shift it into reverse, and it has this handle that you grab, you push this button down, and then you shift backwards. Like, it's just really not intuitive for someone who doesn't know what they're doing. Me knowing my wife, me knowing my scenario, me knowing how easy it would be to do this and how big of a pain in the butt, because I've driven my dad's four-wheeler, I bought a Polaris. And my dad was not happy. And I was like, I talked to 4 or 5 different people about this, and you just happened to be one of them. And I made the decision that was best for me. And that's where that story goes. It's like, you have to do what's best for you. It doesn't mean that you're going to do, I would call you and I'd say, if I was thinking about buying a plane, Robert, what do you think about this plane? And then I would call a couple other people too, who have flown that plane, who know what to think of it. And then I'm going to make a decision based on it. It's not a cheap decision, right?
No, and the interesting part about any kind of decision like that is you're going to spend between $400,000 and $600,000 on something, and you're going to look at it and you're going to say, well, what's important? Well, Wes, I don't know what's important to you in the air. I know what was important to me. I know why I bought my plane. Right. I'll tell you the perks of it, right? I'll tell you the good, and there's some bad. Okay. What does that mean? Well, Jesus, if there was one choice, only one plane maker that mattered, then guess what? There would be only one maker of planes.
Right.
But surprisingly enough, there's not. Why? Because people have different preferences.
Yep.
And so it's like this. And I would say to you in the same position, hey, Wes, come fly mine. And then you buy a different plan, and I say, hey, can I come fly yours?
Yeah.
Why? Because I'm curious, right? Yeah. And so it's the difference about being open-minded to the things. And this is my girlfriend and I were talking about being right, okay? And how much people desire to be right. And I thought, especially with someone you love, being right. Ooh, don't go there. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know what's that going to get me to be right? Oh, I'm right. Oh, so I'm gonna make her feel bad?
Yep.
I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, and it doesn't matter. I could be dead right, but really, especially in matters of opinion and taste,
Right.
how do you be right?
Well, and that's the thing, back to that whole scenario. It's interpretation, no matter what it is. And if you people have been here from the beginning and you've been listening to what's going on, like it's interpretation. How do you interpret it? And so when someone says something that you don't like, you're dialing into your past experiences and how you feel about something. And my past experiences are different than Robert's, are different than Nikki's who's in the chat room, are different than everyone else's opinions and the things that we've been through. So we see what we've been through and we relate that to that. And not everyone is the same. It's crazy. My head is a 7 3/4 size. Robert's could be a 7.5. I can grow facial hair. Robert could not. Like, these are the things that happen. Like, we all have differing opinions. We've all been through different things. We all draw from different parts of our life to understand what things are. And so your interpretation of what's right is different than my interpretation of what's right, no matter what is said. And we all have the ability to think independently. And so we're going to have different opinions. We're going to think that something is thinking about attractiveness to women or men or whatever it is. You're going to think that this guy looks good or this guy looks bad. And it's all about what you relate it to and how you like and your personal preference, not anyone else's.
It's so funny because when I took my girlfriend to In-N-Out Burger, she had never been there before. And so we drive to In-N-Out Burger, and of course, you know what the crowds look like. There's people wrapped around the building trying to get in. There's lines and all this kind of stuff. So we go to In-N-Out Burger, we get them, we take them to go. Bring them home, get ready to eat. This is the first time she's had In-N-Out Burger. She's looking at the audience, the crowd, right? And then she comes back, eats the burger, and I said, what do you think? She goes, it's good. But you can immediately tell she was like, this is not the best burger I've ever had. And wow, those crowds don't make any sense to me.
Yep.
Okay. To her, this was not the greatest burger in the world. But to my daughter, I walk past her and I say, hey, would you like me to go to In-N-Out, get you something from In-N-Out Burger? She said, always.
Yep.
Always. I love In-N-Out Burger, right? Again, this is a preference. But if you are just crowd sensitive, you're looking at the crowd and saying, I should love In-N-Out Burger because everybody else does.
Yep.
You don't have to.
No.
It's not a requirement. If she says to me, let's go get a burger, and she says, I'm still, the biggest burger I love is Whataburger. Okay. Let's go to Whataburger. Or guess what? I'm a big enough boy to go, I'm going to pick you up a Whataburger and I'm going to get an In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah. That's the worst.
I
Two
mean,
different places, but you're making that choice.
It doesn't matter. It's like, if I want her to have hey, let's have a burger. Let's go get our best burger day for whatever reason.
Yep.
Well, then we're going to two places. And I don't care because what am I trying to do? I'm trying to make her happy. And it is best burger. So we don't agree on that. Wes, we agree on so many things. Am I really going to give a crap?
You should.
About her In-N-Out
this
Burger?
relationship should be completely over because you both don't like the same burger.
Oh my God! Yeah, we need to be devastated about that, right?
Yep. It's weird, and the thing that I don't understand, and we'll leave it at this, is the fact that you have to break it down into those little things. That's all there is to it. Like, everyone has differing opinions. We're complaining about a hamburger here. But the fact of the matter is that that's how life is. People don't think the same way as you. Doesn't mean that they're not right. Doesn't mean that you're right. Doesn't mean that you can't be friends. That's all there is to it.
Right. And when you listen to someone speak, we'll loop it back around to Charlie Kirk. Never listened to but a few words out of the man's mouth, maybe 10. I don't know. But to one person, what is racist and hate speech, to another person is common sense.
Yep.
And somebody says, how could that possibly be? Because you're hearing, unfortunately, you're filtering based upon your life experience.
Yep.
And as it says, that the reality is your life experience is different and you hear different things. The words are trigger for you and they're not triggers for other people. That's the way that goes. I can't, I'm not going to measure it. I'm not going to say, you emphatically are wrong. No, I'm going to go, okay. I always say to people, you're entitled to your own opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts.
Yep.
Okay. Like gravity exists. If you don't believe me, I can prove it. But with human affairs and preferences, it is not that simple. You can't prove anything per se. You can say that sounds like hate speech. That sounds kind of hateful, right? But kind of, you can't go, I can prove it. That puts us in a different realm, and that's why we fight so much.
Yep. It's pretty crazy. We have to all be able to look at both sides of everything and go from there. So, well, Robert, I appreciate you being here. It's good to be back on the show, and
Absolutely.
We've got some stuff to talk about, and we will be back next Monday, same time, same place.
Appreciate you. Have a great Monday, everyone.
Yep, we'll see ya.